Good morning, Sean Aquiline. It is time for your Revelstoke Mayor Report with Mayor Gary Sauls. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Sean.
It is a sunshine day out there. Did you bring that?
Absolutely.
Your sunny disposition always brings the sun, Gary.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome, Gary. You're very, very welcome. So, Gary, I don't have a ton for you this week. There was no dust up. You guys got to dust things up for us to gossip about.
I think we've been through that with most of the budget over the last few months, so we're kind of down to the end. It was resolutions coming from Committee of the Whole to the Council to support them. So it's been supported. Now it'll go to the next meeting for adoption, and then that'll be it.
So I did have a quick question about the split of going towards 50,000 or something. I can't remember the total amount. You could confirm that towards bylaw, and then the other one for a little bit more advanced communications if there's a big project or something.
Yeah, we're waiting for the plan to come from Floden.
Oh, okay, so they're going to
do that. They're doing the plan. They've been given the money to do the plan. They'll get that together for us. And then at that point in time, we'll look at it and see what the recommendations are. And that money's kind of earmarked to help instigate whatever that plan is going forward. So whether it means we update website, whether it means we hire communications part-time, whatever it is, as a council, give some conversation.
My only question about it was the discussion. It's always about how much are we spending, and we're going to have to, it's coming out of the tax basin.
Yep.
So the money is still coming out of the tax basin. We're just not giving it all to a communications director. It's going to be chopped up. So the money is still, unquote, being taxed and then spent.
Correct.
Okay, so we're still spending it. We're just going to delegate the dollars in a different way.
Yep.
Okay.
So part of that's going to bylaw.
Okay. We also had to pay for the quality control float chart from the company to kind of give us how it goes down too.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I just wanted to touch base on that one. And what do you have on your cheat sheet there?
Well, I wanted to talk about budget, and basically you've included everything that we've done. So the suggested budget going back to council for adoption now is across the board 4.5%. We still have to talk about how we're going to allocate those taxes to residential, commercial, that sort of thing. So we'll talk about that as well.
Okay.
And that'll be done in a council meeting or committee of the whole. So we just wanted to make mention of that. I want to talk about, again, public engagement with backcountry closures regarding caribou. So there's going to be a public meeting on April the 15th. It's to be decided where it's going to be in time, that sort of thing. So our MLA, Doug Klochok, was able to secure a meeting of council with the minister, so we hope that to be going forward. There's some people in the community, some stakeholders who want to be at that meeting. I'm not sure that's going to happen. They've turned us down for that, but we'll just see going forward.
Were we picked last in dodgeball on this?
Kind of. But at least we're getting to the table, and that was my request. Let's see if we can get to the table, at least talk about it. I'd love nothing better than for us to have some sort of conversation about us sitting at the table when we look at what we're going to be doing with the backcountry.
Well, it kind of makes sense if we're the ones living in it.
Yeah, and who better to actually manage what's happening in the backcountry than the local people? So
kind of makes some sense there, you would think, but...
Yep. A couple other things I just wanted to briefly mention. So dealing with Trans-Canada Highway, the BC bid tenders closed yesterday for the brake check up in Albert Canyon. So they're going to go through a new process for hiring staff for that. I believe it's through BC Benefits Infrastructure. So the tender will be awarded to a contractor, but then we're actually able to have local people working on site. So people can apply, probably have to join the union if they're not already in it, and see if they can get work there. So that's a bonus going forward. We're the first to do that sort of thing, or it's the first project to have that sort of tendering process. So we're not sure how it's going to work. Government doesn't know how it's going to work. We're just hopeful that it will be a benefit.
There will be some information about that in April. I've been chatting with a consulting company that's dealing in that, and they will have some information, and I'll be getting that in the next probably 10 days prior to April 15th, and then we'll get some information out in mid-April about that.
Great. And the only other thing, yesterday the BC government announced more work on Trans-Canada Highway, so they're going to be doing some work on Quartz Creek and the area around Quartz Creek. That's towards Golden. That bridge, you come to a sharp left when you're heading east, and sharp right coming back to Revelstoke, so they're going to mitigate that with a new 4-lane bridge and some laning on each side of that bridge. So we hope to see that project at least get some work soon.
And speaking of the highway, I guess as now that March is pretty much coming to a close, that we're going to get into that rain season. So it'll be interesting as we get into the, the rock slide, mudslide zone, how well the fences hold up at Three Valley Gap. Obviously, I think everyone's hoping that it works exactly like it's designed to, but we'll see how that rolls out because we've seen some pretty big boulders come down in the past. So
yeah. So again, in speaking with Mr. Kloofchuk, he's asked if I had some concerns about highway. What he's going to be having a meeting with MOTI. I said I would like to see continued work on mitigation on Three Valley Gap, bearing in mind that ridge is 600 feet high. So we're going to see some cracking and some rocks and whatnot coming down from up there. Those chain things are not going to help with that, I do not believe. However, you can't put chains 600 feet up to hold everything back. So we're not sure what kind of mitigation can be done going forward. We want to just see some safety there for our residents.
I think we always knew that that the rock that came down in 2002 would probably tear the fence down, but the smaller ones,
it works.
It works.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're happy about that. And as street sweeping has started in earnest, and we're going to see some cleaning of residential areas. I haven't got the schedule yet as to when that's going to happen. But I've noticed lots of parking issues, especially with C-Click Fix. People are parking where they're not supposed to, so I'm just going to ask people to be good neighbors. Park where you should be parking. Don't park in front of your neighbors, and don't park on corners or those yellow lines. There's a reason they're there, and that's to keep everybody safe as they cross the street.
That is all I've got. It's been a light week, so you must have been good, and we'll check in with you next week. Unless you got anything else?
That's it. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.
Good morning, Sean here, and on the phone with me is a fired up MLA, Doug Kloofchuk, who's hanging out in Victoria where all the cherry blossoms are blooming. Hello, Doug.
Hey, Sean. How are you doing, buddy?
Well, let's dive right into it. Okay, so there are issues that have been going on in our neck of the woods in terms of caribou, but I know that there is something that has just been burning your butt. So what's going on with the caribou?
It goes back to what I've said before. Everybody understands, Sean, that we've got to find solutions around managing caribou populations. There's no question about it. It's a very complex and complicated issue. In the estimates that I had with the Flinrod, Minister Donaldson, about the caribou plan, you know that they've come up with a new strategy and taken months to get to a conversation with the public in British Columbia about the caribou situation and their plans going forward. And I know that the federal government's involved in this, obviously, as well. We found out that April the 15th is going to be the meeting in Revelstoke with the consulting bureaucrats around the caribou issue. So I asked the minister if, first of all, the Shuswap from Invermere, which claims that as their traditional territory, had been consulted, because they keep telling everybody they're consulting with First Nations. The answer I got was, we don't know, which means to me, no, they haven't, so they got to backpedal on that. But more, even as important, was the question I asked that the mayor and council of Revelstoke has not heard from either the federal government or the provincial government, and now there's consultations coming to Revelstoke on April the 15th. So I asked if we could have a private meeting with the consulting bureaucrats, with mayor and council, and that was agreed to. So that's going to be happening on April the 15th. There will be also a public meeting. But in addition to that, Sean, I did ask, the Snowmobile Club has been very vocal, working very, very closely with our office. I asked if we could have a private meeting with individuals that were appointed from each of those stakeholder groups, and they turned me down flat. We're going to be working with the mayor and council on the April 15th meeting. There will be a consultative public meeting on the caribou issue, and we all know that it could have a disastrous impact on the economy and the lives of people in Revelstoke. So that's kind of all the information I have now, but it's an ongoing saga. Thanks, my friend, and you just take care and say hi to everybody in Revelstoke. Look forward to seeing you when I'm there in April.